For years, SM Entertainment lit up the K-pop industry with bright colours, experimental music, and talented like no other idols. But these days, it seems that SM's success has gone to the company's head, as they've been missing the mark with almost all of their artists, while their talent still remains. The company itself has lost its way. So today, let's talk about SM Entertainment's growing misdirection of its groups and what's causing it. First of all, SM has always prioritized having all idols work in harmony with one another. In the earlier days of the label, SM would release holiday-themed albums, from Christmas theme to summer. These albums in the early 2000s would feature all artists under the label coming together for a special mass collaboration. Almost a decade later, into the 2010s, things started to slow down, and this aspect of SM as one, working in harmony, had become abstract. Still selling itself as the SM family, there was a drought of these cross-promotion albums, but a reprise of one-off collaborations. And these one-off collaborations is really where SM thrived. How this worked was that all SM artists would exist in their own separate worlds, but every now and then, in smaller forms, they'd come together for what felt like a once-in-a-lifetime crossover. Collaborating on each other's solo albums, joint advertisement, collaborations, and short-lived one-off crossover units or stages. It's these quick spectacles of collaboration that really made them feel not only special and moving, but it also made them iconic. It wasn't until entering the 2020s that SM Entertainment regressed from this formula, which had truly wreaked havoc on the company in my opinion. Going back to SM's roots throughout the transition into the new decade, SM has opted for a one nation under SM mentality that has been doing the groups more harm than good. The introduction of Kwangya and all of a sudden implying that every group is part of this SMCU lore strips away the core appeal of the company's groups. What makes a group special is that they have their own path, their own music, their own story, their own style. But if every group under the same label is being repainted after years of their work in the industry alone to all have the same fictional storyline as one another, it removes each group's, let alone each artist's, uniqueness and individuality. It's like having a palette of different colours of paint, and instead of using each colour to play off each other in your painting, you just mix them all together to make brown. While this might sound like I'm complaining about nothing, this very literal push into the SM family as opposed to the previous very abstract push was only just getting started. The SMCU was only the first step into this unusual marketing tactic. Before SM had found their calling in the SMCU, they had become deluded by the idea of Avenger subunits, a delusion that is still carrying on today. Basically, these subunits pull idols from very famous and beloved SM groups into a 7-member ensemble, where they consistently promote singles and mini albums together. I call them Avengers units because this was the premise SM were originally marketing them as, claiming that each famous SM group were coming together to form what would feel like an Avengers team. The problem with the way SM has gone about this is that they seem to be oblivious to the fact that these forms of subunits have no longevity, have very little benefits for the idols who are involved, and are altogether kind of a waste of these idols' hard work and time. That might have sounded a bit harsh, but I think it's better at this point if we just flat out admit it. The business model for an Avengers group completely undermines the whole entire framework that K-pop came to exist within. I know SM Entertainment pride themselves on starting the trend and sticking to traditions outside the framework provided, but at this point I think they're getting a bit, a little too big for their boots, okay? K-pop succeeds based on individualism, in which fans choose a handful of specific groups and focus all their love and attention into them. They form individualized fan bases who adopt a "our group against the world" belief creating divides between fan bases and resulting in never-ending fan wars for years to come. And these dynamics don't just occur between groups from different companies, as remember the fact that groups always debut after one another under every K-pop label. Usually this leads to the older groups seeing the newer groups as their faves replacement, and the newer groups viewing the older groups as nothing but washed up has-beens, hags, you know. So with fan bases who have been made to inherently hate each other across generations based on this cycle of debuting after one another, what did SM think was going to happen when they took multiple different members of different generations and threw them all together to sell them to these individualized fan bases who have no desire to mix with each other? Due to this individualism, K-pop stans want their own favorite groups to make it to the top alone, not join hands with other groups and push them forward as well. This is just the basis of why this Avengers concept has become so doubted. The biggest and main reason that these supergroups don't work out is due to the fact that they are a novelty, but SM is pushing them in a way that they expect them to outlive being a novelty as a real group. Boa was questioning the other day why Stamp On It has very little views, and to answer her question, it's because of SM's poor understanding of how their own concept works. The whole premise of an Avengers group is seeing these iconic idols come together to perform, but once you get past that first exposure of them being together, the magic wears off. Step Back was somewhat successful despite little promotion because both fans and the public were excited to see what it would be like for legendary SM idols to sing on the same song. But now that we've heard what it's like to see them sing on the same song, the excitement and hype to see it has gone down. Considering the sexism that's at play here too, in which Super M were given appearances on Ellen and Got The Beat had to drag themselves up the road to Inkigayo, of course Got The Beat is plummeting right now. Being part of these Avengers groups mean you have to watch your own faves derail their career for the sake of an ongoing collaboration that you didn't really ask for. EXO-Ls wanted Baekhyun and Kai to further their solo careers rather than spend their time before enlistment promoting with other male idols under SM. The most egregious instance has been aespa's edition in Got The Beat, which really is a frustrating decision on behalf of SM because aespa aren't veterans yet compared to the other female idols in the group, and they need this precious time to build the foundations for their career that just started 2 years ago. They don't have the time for this right now. This really wouldn't be a problem if SM gave Got The Beat and Super M the unique treatment and gave the members this one special unit and then left it at that. But prolonging it is what's causing all these issues and the backlash that was seen against both units. They've turned what was essentially fun side projects into serious ventures, when the whole Avengers thing is unserious in itself to say the least. Some might say, okay, well these Avenger groups actually do promote the idols and the groups that they come from. I mean, EXO members never would have gotten a #1 on Billboard without Super M, right? Well, I disagree because the real purpose of these Avenger groups, to me, is not to promote any group, but to promote the SM branding and breed company stans. The major problem as a whole is that SM have gone from 2 decades of subtly pushing the idea of the SM family in a way that was endearing for fans of their groups. But now they are going into overload, trying to turn your blood pink, assuming that just because you like Girl Generation, for example, now you have to like Red Velvet, Boa, aespa. While it's a practice that in theory can make a lot of money, it's very hard to persuade K-pop stans to get on board with this sudden shift in marketing when K-pop fandom just doesn't really work that way. The only reason HYBE was able to succeed with creating a majority company stan base was because they had the trust of armies and goodwill built up for the company itself years prior. And SM has been around for so long and is starting to run out of goodwill as of late. Why? Well, let's talk a little bit about that. Recently, it seems like SM are obsessed with upholding the legacy of SM's glory days, and now they are addicted to recycling nostalgia instead of focusing on the future of their groups. It's nice to have a throwback every now and then, but instead of focusing on reminding us about the company's iconic past, why have you become incapable of creating an iconic present day? And this reminiscing has caused SM to believe that they don't even need to try anymore with many of their groups. And in my opinion, this really shows with the recent output of Red Velvet. The next step was obvious. Psycho, a Velvet concept that done extremely well in South Korea, and Bad Boy, another Velvet concept by the group that showed great promise for the group's global success, clearly should have been ringing some bells for SM. It had been 3 years since their last dark concept that was majorly successful, mind you, and after a consistent string of red concepts alongside the almost 6 years since their last Velvet Korean album, the logical answer was to give Red Velvet a new Velvet album. But instead, during the winter season, Red Velvet came back with a red concept, which was another installment of the Revy Festival series. The Revy Festival should have been a trilogy, but now because SM couldn't care less about what Red Velvet's doing at this point, they've dragged it on for no reason other than the fact that they can't be asked to come up with something newer for Red Velvet to do. I've already talked about NCT at length in my deep dive into their misconception and how SM can barely handle them, so if you're interested in hearing about that, then you can go and watch that video. I'm only mentioning them to say this. What on earth are these teasers? Repackages were SM's speciality, and SM used to put love and care into everything about them. Again, it's just like they don't care. What they do care about though is the SM entertainment concept over everything else that once made their group special. It just hit me the other day that aespa don't really have their own concept. Their concept is SM entertainment. Kwangya, all their title tracks sounding like replicas of early Yoo Young-jin signature pieces, their AI concept that's being utilised for the group not for the sake of selling the group itself, but because Chris Lee and Lee Soo-man is using aespa as a vessel for SM entertainment to move into the direction of selling AI experiences, NFTs and all this nonsense. I find this unfair at the expense of the members of aespa, because the girl groups before them were treated and sold like girl groups, but aespa is being sold as this propaganda mouthpiece for SM. Have you ever seen any artist, no matter what genre, whose whole aesthetic, style and music is rooted in the concept of a music label? It's things like this that make me worry for all the artists under SM, because the company is stifling their biggest acts by trying to force themselves, the company, into the spotlight and not their groups. Recently, it was reported that big changes are coming to SM, as apparently board members are going to be switched out. They've been battling over Lee Soo-man's role in the company for a good year now, and it has been speculated that SM is in turmoil right now. This is why SM seem to just be doing anything as of late. I wonder if this shakeup will either solve a lot of these issues or it will lead to the company's downfall. In this video I focused on the SM problem, but keep in mind that this doesn't mean other companies are in any way better than SM, or that I'm just targeting SM, because every K-pop company has their own problems. These are just SMs. I think if SM continue down this road and stick to their old ways instead of innovating, which they were famous for, then I can see this eventually hurting them as we enter a new phase of K-pop. At the moment, we'll see where this takes them.